Hey, I was wondering if you could just generally update us on the reports that you've gotten on players from this past month and also the freshmen that have arrived from your strength staff.
Well, I think they're really pleased with what's going on and how the kids returned. I think that's um, the biggest thing. I think we're in pretty good shape for where we are right now, and at this point in time of the season, and we've got a much bigger football team than we had in middle of the late March.
Are you able to comment on your latest transfer edition?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I just got the okay that yes, I am.
Okay. Can you comment on Jaquelin Crawford, what he can bring to the table? And I guess he'll be sitting one.
Yeah, very dynamic slot. I mean, a receiver that you go back and watch his tape that he was electric in high school, and obviously contacted us. I think we finished second on him whenever 2 years ago or whatever it was, and but I like him. It's great mama, and he's got a lot of speed, and I think he's going to be a dynamic slot for us. I really do. We're really excited about getting him in here.
Thanks, Coach. Tom?
Hey there, Sam, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just talking, I guess Arkansas's numbers have been going up a little bit, and you need to stay positive in terms of wanting to play, but are you having any concerns that the season might not go as scheduled and things might have to be adjusted?
No, not really. I mean, we can only control what we can control in here, and in our SEC head coaches meetings, it's everything's going planned on schedule for September 5, and that's what we're preparing for. Obviously, there's a lot of different scenarios and things of that nature, but as of today, and I'm saying in the near future, we're looking forward to starting the season off September 5th.
Kyle did not want us to ask about numbers of positive COVID testers on your team. Has it impacted you in terms of guys to get out and run and do the things that y'all want to do? Has it been an impact?
No, not really. I mean, obviously, if you have a positive, then it going to take whoever's with them or around them for a 10 to 14 day period. So, if you have a positive, then it certainly affects who's able to work out and who's not. But I can say we've been very good here. We've done a nice job with this COVID, and I'm very proud of the way our players have handled it.
Okay, I got more, Kyle, but I'll come back in at the end.
Yep, I got you. Nikki, do you have questions?
Sure, yes. Coach, when you guys start the walkthroughs and whatnot, how do you really determine, depth when you're starting those things? Like, how do you go through? Do you just start with what they were working with last year? How do you go about that?
Our depth chart, obviously, we have one now, Nikki, and it'll be a revolving depth chart, I'm sure. There'll be some guys that certainly are there for good, but you have to have a first way to line them up. So we certainly have a depth chart now. A lot of it has to do with last season, maybe the season before. A lot of it have to do with what we saw in the 8-week off-season program as well. So we're going to have a 1, 2, 3. We're going to do some things of two spotting, do some things where we can get everybody out there, reps. Obviously, we need to look at the kids. And, of course, in a walkthrough, you're not going to be able to determine whether they can go hit and run and tackle and all those things, but you are going to be able to see who's retained the information from these meetings.
You saw the freshmen come in. I know you haven't been able to see them work out, but was there anyone that surprised you with how ready they look, the freshmen specifically?
They all looked really – I thought they all came in and looked like they was in pretty good shape. Andy Boykins came in. He looks good. He's a little bit over 300 pounds. And Malik came in, looked good. I think all of them, we always take a picture of them when they come in as freshmen and then when they leave. And certainly what a huge transformation in all of them. But I was pleased with the way they came in. I really like the group. They've got a great attitude. You have to find people that want to be at Arkansas and want to play the game, and I think we did in this group. I'm pleased at how they came back or started.
Thanks, Coach.
Nate, do you have questions? You're muted, Nate.
Am I okay now? You hear?
Yes, sir.
Sam, just with the corona, kind of the not knowing whether the season will start or not, how hard is that to kind of keep the players motivated that the season will be on schedule?
Well, I think the media thinks we're not going to have a season more than we do, and so there hadn't been 1 ounce of conversation between myself and our team about not having a season. So it's not hard to motivate them about not having a season because we all believe we're going to. If it changes, we'll adjust. But we're preparing for September 5, and that's what we believe is going to happen. If it doesn't, we'll just have to figure out what our next step is. But it hadn't been hard because we don't talk about it.
And as far as just when you do get to put the ball down, just how much installation can you do in these, the non-contact practices?
Yeah, I think quite a bit. We're going to use our special teams in those practices as well. So they're going to give you an hour, 6 hours a week. However, you're going to divide up the week. You have 1 day off, but you're going to get 6 hours a week for walkthroughs. And we're going to use some of that in special teams. So I'm assuming we're going to get, somewhere around 4.5 hours of walkthrough, specifically offense and defense. And we need it. And we'll get that times 2. And hopefully that'll get us ready for when 2 days start the 7th of August.
And finally, are all your grad transfers, will they be on hand at least by the time the practice will start in August?
Yeah, I believe all our grad transfers are here now. Well, they are. Every grad transfer we have has been with us for a little bit.
Thanks. I'll let somebody else take a shot.
Thanks, Nate. Tara/Mike.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned some of the media don't think there's going to be one. There's a lot of fans out there that are saying this, and I'm wondering how you guys deal with it. I mean, it's all over message boards, all this typical social media. There's not going to be a season. There's no way they can play. Fans who love college football just seem to somehow, some of these people have given up. And in the absence of real knowledge, there's a lot of crazy talk out there. I mean, we were dealing with a situation yesterday where a good source was telling us, you guys were sending everybody home today. And obviously that's nonsense. But how do you kind of deal with this whole backdrop with all that going on?
Well, I learned a long time ago, media is very important, but it's also, it can make your team and it can break your team if you pay a lot of attention to it. And so we're going off of facts of what we know. I'm in a head coaches meeting every Thursday morning at 7:30, and I'm going off of facts from the SEC commissioner. And so all speculation, I mean, we could speculate for a month, and some of us be right, a lot of us be wrong. I'm just going off the facts of what the SEC commissioner is telling us, and we're going as planned to have a season September 5th. And I don't know, honestly, I don't know how you can possibly prepare a team if you look at it any other way than that.
I I didn't know if you wanted to ask about the 2 days thing. I thought that was a good question. We were talking about if there were a possibility right now of you guys starting up 2 days at all.
Tara, I'm so old that I just say 2 days, and I mean fall camp, but every time it comes out of my mouth, it comes as 2 days. I've not heard one thing about 2 days or anything of that nature. When I say that, that's a mistake by me. I mean just fall camp. That's my fault.
Good. Thank you.
Bob?
I think you're muted, Bob.
Okay, how about there?
There you go.
Well, I'm a technical wizard. Hey, Sam, I know you haven't gotten to see Rakeem in practice yet, running in like a real practice, but I'm sure you watched a lot of film on him. You got to be around now for a while. Kind of what's your take on how he's getting ready for this year, how determined he is? Because he's had great individual stats, but the team hadn't won. I know that's a big thing, for him.
You'll have to ask him that same question because he'll know the answer better than I do. But I do know this, that we're really happy he came back. He has great leadership skills. He's motivated, and I love him. I'm very, very excited to see him perform this year, and I'm very happy as Arkansas Razorback. And he's working extremely hard, and obviously he knows what this senior season holds for him and for the football team. And the better he is, the better our football team's going to be as well, and the people around him. So I've been really, really excited about him, and I think he's going to have a heck of a football season.
And, he obviously was very productive, but I know a while back you talking to him about how he can get better, how he can raise his draft stock, obviously how he can help you guys win more games. Where do you think he can be better specifically? Well, what can he do better? What can you guys help him do better?
Well, I think we answered this before, but he obviously is a dynamic runner, very powerful. He can see the field out. His outstanding vision. In our report that we got back and we shared it with Rakeem is that we need to get him more pass protection reps. That'll help him in the league. We need to get him the ball out of the backfield so he can catch out of the backfield. Those are things that are in our offense, certainly. And the better he is at those, the higher his draft stock's going to become.
Okay, yeah, I got a few more if you have time. So I'll let
Hutch?
Yeah, Coach, I was just wondering, I know you can't be with the guys during their workouts and stuff, and last time we talked to you, weren't sure how much interaction you'd have with them. Now that you've had a couple of weeks, have you been able to have any in-person interaction with the team, and what's that been like?
Not much, to be honest with you. We've had some kids in here for academics, and we need to get better, or we're doing great, and we're able to talk to them about that. But not a whole lot of conversation between us face-to-face with the football team besides our strength staff.
And then I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer this or not, but with Crawford coming in from Oklahoma, I was wondering if you could maybe provide some insight on how y'all were able to make that work scholarship-wise, because I think most of us thought you had hit your limit for this year. Is there any insight you could give us on that?
Yeah, he just pushes forward to next season, so he'll count in the count for next year.
All right,
we're full, so we'd have to push him forward.
Thank you.
Ty?
Yeah, Coach, kind of just with the parents, I know as a freshman, that's kind of like one of the more difficult times transitioning, going from your parents' house and then going to college, being off on your own. What reassurances did you give the parents who moved in their freshmen this weekend?
If you really look at this recruiting cycle and you look at it, let's say that you came in January on your official visit, and normally what happens between now and then? Well, you probably get 3 or 4 times to see them in the spring because you're going to go by the school and see them. They're probably going to come to the spring game, which is number 5. And so you're probably, or they may come down in between those times, but you're probably missed out on 4 or 5 opportunities to see the young man and his family. So we were much more concerned this year than any year at all in getting our freshmen here, because it's a relationship business, and it's hard to build relationships over the phone or over Zoom. So we made a conscious effort of trying to make sure that we're talking to our kids as much as we possibly can, because we felt like we lost at least 4, maybe 5 face-to-face opportunities with our recruits. So obviously our entire staff Friday was over to the quads, and we were able to visit, and our whole Friday was trying to make the parents feel extremely comfortable that they were leaving their kids in the right hands. And so that's all you can do, really, and communicate.
We know how much of an impact Danielle has with the basketball program. Just with your wife, Jamie, Coach, how much of an impact does she have on the Arkansas football program?
I don't really know. You'd have to ask her. I mean, she's a great supporter of myself and the football team. I'm not for sure that she's unbelievably active right now, because, to be honest with you, really can't be socially. But she's my right-hand woman, and I'm excited that she's willing to help me recruit, because it is a family, and she's a big part of our football program.
Thanks, Coach.
Trey Schapp, you got anything?
Yeah, Coach. Obviously, leading up to September 5th, you've got a plan of attack. If all of a sudden you get word that, okay, we're not going to start September 5th, do you have multiple plans that you would work through, and how would that work?
I think that's the biggest concern is the what ifs. What if this happens? What if you get, pushed back 2 weeks? What if all those type things? And that's always a constant communication between myself, Coach Walker, and our 3 coordinators. We're talking about that all the time. We just had a meeting yesterday about our plan, and then, okay, let's say that they give us another week. Are we comfortable with exactly what we're doing now, or do we need to change it up for the kids? We're not in the time-consuming business. We're in the winning business. And so we're not trying to have our kids here because the NCAA says you can have them here. If we're going to have them here and have them in meetings, we need to be diversified enough in our meetings that we're keeping their attention, that we can go win football games.
That's it. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, let's start working our way back around the room here. We've probably got 8-10 minutes left with Coach here before we get to Rakeem and Monteric. Trey Biddy, you got anything?
Yeah, Coach, I got a couple of questions. I was wondering about your offensive line last year. It was pretty light overall, and I know a lot of guys have made some gains. Has there been, what are we looking at right now for some of the key players in terms of, getting up to that 300 plus range?
Well, we're big right now, Trey. You won't believe it, but we got a pretty good sized offensive line. I mean, they came back. I can say this: their mamas must be really good at cooking, because when they left and they came back, and it was quality weight. But right now, I'm very pleased with the size of our offensive line. Obviously, I like big, and we're certainly going to continue to try to get bigger, but the kids that we have certainly have done that. And Jamil's, Coach Walker has put an emphasis on that. Maybe not quite running as much as the bigs as much as we normally would at this point, but we're, to me, bigger's better as long as you can move, and that's what we're trying to get done right now. But I've been really pleased with the size, the way the guys came back, Trey.
Now, I wanted to ask you maybe if you could give us an example maybe of one guy that you asked to add weight that that added a lot, or maybe a couple, and maybe somebody that you asked to trim up?
Well, Myron Cunningham was about 285, 287, and he's about 319 now. So he needed it. I mean, it's hard to set the bull when you don't have enough butt to set it with, and so he needed it. And I had a nice conversation with him, and I think he's going to have a nice season. But he worked hard at gaining that weight and staying in shape.
Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
Tom?
Okay. Yes. We're going to talk to Buster Brown here in a minute. And just any thoughts you have on what you've seen of him, what you've heard back from Jamil Walker and the strength coaches on what type of player he's developing into, because he's gotten better each year he's been here.
Well, again, I'm so happy he's on the football team. I mean, Buster Brown is a great kid and works his tail off. He had a little bit of an injury back in, January. And the next day he was ready to go. He loves the game of football. And I'm glad that you guys are going to be able to talk to him and Rakeem, because those guys are great ambassadors for our football team. He's a hard worker, a guy that you can count on. He's loyal. You can trust him. And therefore, that's why I asked you guys to talk to him today, because I think he's a special person.
Okay, and then just in reports you've gotten back, every team kind of takes on its own identity, but guys who have maybe risen above the position they held before in terms of leadership, in terms of being at the front of the line, rallying the guys, just what you've heard.
That's a great question, and I hate not to answer it because it's such a good question, but I don't know the answer. I mean, we truly are in our own little world over here. We're in a little bit different bubble over here than what they are in the strength program, and it's voluntary, so you're supposed to voluntarily not ask questions about it. So we've been trying to stay true to the rules. So I wish we could answer that question, but we can't.
Thanks, Tom. Mike?
I think some of the fans were frustrated with that news that came out, like with LSU, were supposedly like 18 or 20 players, and they traced it back to some nightclubs out off the campus. And the latest CDC guidelines basically indicate that this thing is spreading among young people, largely indoors, close contact. That's one thing for the average, college student, but obviously your players need to avoid that. But how realistic is it for you to talk to your players and convince them not to do that, knowing that they're the age in which that's what guys do? How hard is that, and how realistic is it to expect them to, in the final analysis, when you're not around, listen to you?
Well, if they want to have a football season, it's realistic to ask them to stay away from people. I mean, but I mean, they're young. I mean, they like to, just like we do. We like to be around people and things of that nature. It's not only going out; it's in your dormitory. I mean, when you're around your roommates, it's all those things about wearing a mask. Tell you what's happened. We have gotten better and better at social distancing as we continue to go through these weeks. I mean, we've gotten a lot better. You can see it outside the building. You can see it coming in the building. The education has worked, but to sit here and say 4th of July, I mean, come on. You're either going to say, we trust you to be as social distancing as you can, or you're going to say, you can't go anywhere, including any place out of your apartment. I mean, you can't do that. And so we choose to believe that what's the difference in the 4th and last weekend? I mean, the kids are off. And so we choose to trust and believe in our team and that they're grown men, because otherwise A, I think that's the way you should do. And B, it'd wear you out. It'd wear you totally out if you were worried whether they had their mask on at a restaurant or not. I mean, it'd wear you out.
One more. We have a person here. We're 2 television stations, NBC and Fox, and we've got somebody that deals with the networks on programming, things like that. And he told me last night that he had talked to someone at each of the networks that said, in asking about college startup, he said the indication that the networks had was that the various athletic conferences were sort of waiting to see how things work with baseball, Major League Baseball, and the NBA to kind of get an idea of what's going to happen with them, come September. I mean, have you heard anything like that that's going to help if it works?
Well, I say this, any professional sport or even a college sport that would start up before us, whether obviously it's NBA and Major League Baseball, we're going to be able to get some information on what they did right and what they did wrong. And the better, obviously, that it goes, certainly the better opportunity we'll have to get out there on time. So there will be information from Major League Baseball and NBA, how they're doing things and how we can do it if it's good, just like them, and better if they're having some problems.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. All right, Bob, wrap us up with a couple here. Muted, Bob.
How's that? You hear me? Okay. Hey, Sam, something else I wanted to ask. I know I'm not the sharpest knife in the
You're
drawer.
fine.
You know that. Hey, with Rick, I guess between sitting out at A&M, the JUCO, and then you're the second staff he's had here, he's working on his 4th staff. I would think that would have to mature a guy. I know you obviously haven't been around those other staffs. What do you think about Rakeem going through all that? How could that maybe help him going into this last season?
I don't know if it has a lot to do with what his thinking is or not. I think you're going to be able to interview him here in a minute and he'll be able to tell you. But I do know this, ever since we've been here, he's been awesome and he's been outstanding. He's worked his tail off. And so I don't know exactly everything that motivates him. He'll have to tell you that, but he's done a heck of a job for us.
And I know you talked about, the plan is for fall football, but I've read some stories. I've seen Paul Feinbaum, some interviews on his show, and there's, I guess, some school of thought out there about flipping the football season to the spring because maybe there's going to be a anecdote or whatever you call it, a shot, and then there'd be a better chance to have more fans in the stands, more revenue. Is that anything you've heard? And if so, what kind of credence do you give that?
Well, sure, I've heard it. I mean, I've heard a lot of stuff, so what do we say about the spring? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think before it gets to that point, they're going to cut the season down. I think they'd start the season later. I don't know. There's so many scenarios right now, but so you'll know we're planning on September 5.